for an article about a campus protest calling for the agency to be abolished.
Listen to this. Nearly 700 students pushed to condemn the paper, signing a petition that reads in part, quote, "We are extremely disappointed in the cultural insensitivity displayed by the Crimson's policy to reach out to ICE. In this political climate, a request for comment is virtually the same as tipping them off."
Campus reform correspondent Christopher Colby is a student at Harvard, and he joins us now with more. Good morning to you, Christopher.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We are good. So what is wrong? If you're doing a story on ICE and abolishing ICE, they reached out to ICE for just a comment and got all this backlash. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a classic liberal college situation. It's actually quite funny on campus because the Crimson, as far as newspapers go on campuses, it's fairly liberal. So it's interesting that them just asking for a comment from ICE is enough to provoke this other liberal group on campus, aka the Act on a Dream Coalition, the people that have asked for this comment to not be made. They're asking for them not to do it. It's interesting how they're going up against each other. It's kind of funny if it wasn't such a serious topic.
Yeah, and on campuses, you're supposed to have free speech, I thought, and one part of that would be hearing all sides, something the college campuses should want. And in fact, this statement from the Harvard Crimson says, "Our readers have the right to be informed about the place where they live, work, and study. In pursuit of that goal, we seek to follow a commonly accepted set of journalistic standards. Foremost among those standards is the belief that every party named in a story has a right to comment or contest criticism leveled against them." I mean, isn't this a basic tenet, not just of journalism, but of life? You want to hear all sides. You want to be fair.
Absolutely. I mean, I would say we live in a cultural and legal system that prides itself on free speech and freedom of the press. And I mean, like, what they're currently going up against is saying, we have our ideological grounds that we want to stand on, which is no ICE, a misunderstanding of ICE. And then they basically say we don't even want the dialogue around ICE to happen at all. That's kind of the problem with this, of course, as you can see, is that, they might have problems with ICE and they might want to have that dialogue, but they don't even want our school newspaper, our very public, very communal school newspaper, to have any perspective whatsoever on what ICE is thinking.
Did you see what happened? Did you see what happened at UPenn when Tom Homan was on stage? He was there to speak, and they canceled the event because of all the protesters.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, the Leadership Institute's Campus Reform also reports how Tom Homan, a former director of ICE, he was disbarred, or he was not allowed to speak at a Penn student speaking event. And I mean, like, that's a lot of experience and that's a lot of value to students that, if you just shut things down just on name, then you're not going to get anywhere. Certainly not on a campus dialogue perspective.
Christopher, how much responsibility do Democratic lawmakers like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, how much responsibility do they bear when they're out there saying, let's abolish the agency altogether, let's not have ICE at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, these people are guilty of running this conversation that deals with some facts that might be debatable, sure. But at the same time, they're still trying to have the conversation. And, it's interesting to watch these people try to dodge around this point. They want ICE because, they want to debate around what it means to have immigration reform and enforce our borders as a nation. Right. But at the same time, they also want to pretend that it's like it's a boogeyman and that you can't do anything about it. And their method of squaring with that, I mean, it realizes itself in situations like this with people saying, oh, wait, I mean, you can't contact ICE at all. ICE is totally off the table.
All right, Christopher.
And, lawmakers have a duty, I think, to maintain that dialogue. Right. And that's what makes, for instance, on campus,
appreciate you coming in. All right, thank you, Christopher.
Thank you, Christopher.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the verdict is in. Judge Judy just made her pick for 2020.